This is Owl Talk,
a Sigma Pi podcast
featuring stories,
news, updates, and more
from the world of Sigma Pi fraternity.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Owl Talk podcast. We're recording this episode as the spring season rolls in, which means many of our undergraduates are getting ready to start their summer internships, or for our graduating seniors, they're getting ready to enter the professional world. It's an exciting time, and that had me thinking about the critical career connections that chapters can provide to their brothers. To talk some more about this, I'm joined by two of my chapter brothers and alumni from Delta Beta chapter at Monmouth University. Up first, we have Bart Tripoli, who joined Sigma Pi some 25 or so years ago. And up next, we have Jeremy Lenart, who joined Sigma Pi more recently back in 2019. Gentlemen, welcome to the Owl Talk podcast.
What's going on? Thanks for having me, Tug.
Absolutely. All right, guys. I always start these episodes giving the guests a chance to tell a little bit of their backstory. So let's start there. Bart, we can begin with you. Why don't you tell our listeners about where you're from originally, how you found your way to Monmouth University, then ultimately, what brought you to Sigma Pi fraternity?
Well, I am from Delran, New Jersey, and I was looking to stay local when I wanted to go to school, so I made my way up to the debatable Central Jersey.
A lot of inside Jersey jokes for this episode, I
guess. And I found myself at Monmouth University, loved the campus, and that's where I wanted to be.
Cool. And then when you got to Monmouth, why Sigma Pi?
I mean, there was really no other choice for me. That was the place I wanted to be. That's where I wanted to. I found connection. I found diversity among personalities and thought and people that I could argue with, but still high five at the end of the day, which you don't see a lot of that anymore. And those were just the guys I wanted to be around. They were the most friendly and encouraging and supportive people. And you find that my same group of guys 20 so years later, I have group texts with them, and I was right. I have my instincts were right. These were the guys I wanted to be around.
Awesome. Thank you, Bart. All right, Jeremy, you're up. Same set of questions. Where are you from originally? What brought you to Monmouth University? And then what led you to Sigma Pi fraternity?
So I'm from Scotch Plains, New Jersey. So I actually went down to get to Monmouth. Some might say
Central
that
Jersey.
I'm in Central, but I don't know. So yeah, I didn't look at many colleges, but I remember going to an open house at Monmouth and just being like, wow, this school is so cool. I mean, just was down by the shore. It was a beautiful day. There was all these pretty girls walking around. I was like, this is a place that I could definitely see myself spending the next 4 years opposed to the other schools that I looked at. So it just felt right. And I went with my gut. And when I got there, I was never somebody who thought I would join a fraternity, to be completely honest. But after the first few weeks, just like going to fraternity parties, there was an aura to Sigma Pi that you just felt on campus. Like everybody knew that they were the top guys, the most popular guys, the coolest guys walking around. And I guess maybe you two built that over the years, the foundation that you guys built back in the day. So my mind was changed. I was like, wow, like now I really want to join this fraternity and I want to be around these guys. And this is something that I want to do. And it was a great decision. I had a great time and the connections that I built were priceless.
Look at that, Bart. We got some clout.
We do.
How about that?
We did it, Chuck. We did it.
Mission accomplished. All right. I want to stay with Jeremy here for a moment because really the theme of this episode is about career connections. And so many of our undergraduate listeners are either getting ready for their internships or they're getting ready to graduate in a few weeks. All of them are in one form or another getting ready to be part of the professional world. So Jeremy, why don't you talk to the listeners about what your postgraduate life was like? What was it like trying to find a job after you graduated? That is before you connected with Bart.
I remember it being frustrating is probably the best word I could use because few of the guys in the fraternity and even other people I knew, they had jobs lined up before they graduated and I didn't. So there was kind of something there where it was like, all right, like I really got to find something. And I went back to my college summer job, landscaping, and I would work 6 days a week there. And then I would come home apply to like 3 jobs before I went to bed every day, and that's what I would do. And most of the jobs I obviously didn't get, or you wouldn't even hear back from. And it wasn't like I had a crappy resume or GPA. So that was what was frustrating about it. It's not like, because I feel like some people think you're going to apply to 3 jobs and you're going to get one of them, and then it's going to be that simple. But it's such a competitive field. Like everybody's got a degree nowadays, so I would say that's kind of how it felt.
Yeah, and then here you are, having done everything that you've been told to do your whole life: go to college, do well, extracurriculars. Hey, you join a fraternity, you're on the leadership team of the fraternity, and not getting calls back.
Exactly. And it's like, what did I do wrong? And it's like, I didn't do anything wrong. You did everything right. It's just that's just the nature of the beast.
It is. So let's hop back over to Bart. Bring you back into the conversation. You've got a great career history, so why don't you walk our listeners through your career background, and let's go all the way back to when you started in the professional world, and then let's go as far as the job opportunity that Jeremy ultimately filled. Let's stop there.
Okay, so I started in about 2004, 2005 as an intern at NFL Films. I was a journalism major. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, dying industry. So I figured sports was the right avenue. And I had in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, I had a great internship. I learned more in those 3 months than I learned in 4.5 years of college. Just priceless lessons. How to handle yourself in the working world. I became an editor, certified avid editor, and they hired me freelance as a statistician. And I was doing NFL Europe games. I was doing a show called Playbook, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a really cool X's and O's football show. And they loved me because I put my nose down and I worked, much like Jeremy right now, which we'll get to. I worked my ass off, or my tail off. They couldn't bring me on a staff. And at that time, Sportsnet New York had just launched. So that was 2006. SNY, home of the Mets, Jets, and all things New York sports. And I saw that and I brought that to my bosses at NFL Network, and they were like, I know somebody who is a coordinating producer there. You apply, you do it now, and we'll make this happen. And I got right in, interviewed like three rounds of interviews, and hired on the spot after the 3rd interview as an editor, junior editor. And again, I said, this isn't where I want to stop. I was on the graveyard shift, 2 p.m. to midnight, sometimes 4 p.m. to 2 in the morning.
Oh,
crazy
boy.
hours.
Oh boy.
They would do overnight sports news shows, like re-airs of, quote unquote, it was called Sports Night. It's like Sports Center. But then they started giving me more responsibility, and I was becoming a long form editor for shows. They would do all these interview shows, these hour-long shows, and it's a completely different animal. And I would edit those shows. And then the opposite of that, short form editing position opened up in promos. And this is kind of where we land. I became a promo editor. The hours got better. And I was learning how to shoot a little bit. I was learning how to direct a little bit. And I was writing some of my own promos, to where I ultimately became what, I don't know if they still use this term in the industry, but a producer editor. I was going on shoots with the Mets in spring training. I was writing concepts. I was doing all kinds of really cool stuff, but I hit a ceiling. The 2 people above me were not going anywhere. So I needed to look around again. And they tried to keep me. They threw a senior title in front of me, just, not a real promotion, just to stick around. Look, you're a senior producer editor. But I kept looking around, and I ended up looking where I am now. I saw an opening for a very niche position, but it's what I was doing, for a writer-producer at Fox News Media.
I want to stop here for a moment and just talk to the listeners about, again, the core of this episode. It's about connections, the connections that fraternities can bring to their brothers. Bart is just taking you through his career and how he got to Fox News Media. Jeremy just told you about how the job market was a little bit rough when he graduated. So Bart, let's go from you getting in at Fox News Media to the connection with Jeremy.
So that was a really long interview process. It was COVID, so everything was on the internet, on the computer, all Zoom interviews. They got like 6 rounds of interviews. They initially hired me as a Fox Nation producer. And then a week before I was starting, they were like, actually, we're going to make you in charge of Fox weather promotions. So I did that for about a year. And I think around that time was when I started getting emails from Jeremy. Jeremy, was I still on weather when you started?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like
So
your
around
thing. It was mostly all weather stuff.
Right. I would still do some topicals for Fox News. So Fox News Media has under its umbrella Fox News, Fox Business, Fox Weather, and Fox Nation. I was the producer for weather promos.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't
You do
doing
more
shows.
topicals now than you did then, though. You were like
I
strictly weather at that point.
I do. Yeah. I was strictly weather occasionally. And topicals are the things that come in every day. For instance, today is talking about the plane that went down in Iran. And there are promos all over, running all over the network, pushing to shows covering it. Jesse Walters is covering it at 8, et cetera. Those are topical promos. They're quick turnaround, quick deadline, in and out of a room. So if we mention topicals, that's what we're talking about. It's the busy work.
Yes.
So I was on weather. I got an email from young Jeremy introducing himself. I think I got a text from Tugboat too. Basically looking for work. I have a background that kind of lines up. Is there anything you can do for me? And I knew that were 1 or 2 PAs, production assistants, were on their way out the door. And I said, just keep in touch with me. There's nothing open right now, but remind me again. And he sure did. Like a month later, I think, if I remember correctly, he emailed me within an hour of me finding out that someone put their 2 weeks notice in. So I knew a position was opening up. I think it was
Wow.
name. Yeah.
I don't even know if I knew that.
It was very close. It was like almost seamless.
Jeremy, if I remember correctly, you might have asked me, "Hey, do you know anybody in this field, and anyone I should talk to?" And I said, maybe you should give this guy Bart a text and just introduce yourself, and we see how it played out. So I just want to point out to the listeners something that might seem complicated, something that might seem, labor intensive, potentially frustrating. It's none of those things. For the young people listening, the younger guys in the fraternity listening, if you're looking for, a job opportunity, an internship, I'm sure your chapter has got a connector. There's always 1 or 2 or sometimes a few more connector guys in the chapter. It happens to be me here at Monmouth University because I know a couple of generations of guys. All Jeremy had to do was ask and say, "Hey, do you know anybody who does this stuff?" And lo and behold, I knew someone who did that kind of stuff. So now I want to talk about this connection process. Jeremy, from your perspective, you receive this connection with Bart. There's a job opportunity there. Let's talk about that. What's it like having an older brother from your chapter at the company you're working at, and what's it like to have that connection early in your career?
It was really cool because as somebody breaking out into a brand new industry, fresh out of college, going in, especially at a company as big as Fox, like I'm going to Manhattan, I'm going to this giant building, walking in the door, it's like you don't really know what you're really walking into. I've never had a big corporate fancy job like that in my life. So it's like there's a sense of like you're in this on your own right now. Even though I didn't know Bart, it kind of didn't have that feeling because it was like, all right, I know there's someone there rooting for me. There's somebody that I have a connection with before I even walk through the front door. Bart was one of the first guys that I connected with, and I think we got lunch and we talked about it and like what to expect. And just having that was really valuable, priceless.
Nice to have somebody who's like almost automatically on your side.
Exactly. Yeah.
As cliche or as cheesy as it sounds, it was like we were related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like there was a connect. We knew it. Something bonded us, unspoken or unknowing to us, but it was there. It was something in our background crossed, and we instantly got along.
And that was my question for you, Bart. So here you have a younger guy from your chapters. What's it like having a young guy like that work with you?
I mean, it's great. He, not to toot his horn while he's here, but he reminded me, put his nose down like I said I did at NFL Films. Immediately put his nose down and just worked. What can I do now? Give me something to do. Give me something to do. Is there a broom? I'll sweep this up.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point that you bring that up. Not to cut you off, because I remember when I started, I was like, one of my biggest fears was not only making myself look bad, but making Bart look bad. And you, Tug, because it was like you guys were sticking up for me, vouching, and it's like I don't want to let these guys down.
Well, it's funny you say that because at NFL Films, I'm not at SNY, Tugboat referred somebody to an internship, and I put my name on it, and he did such a bad job that they would never use another referral for me again.
Did not work out as good as it's worked out.
I remember you telling me that. after like a few months in, you were like, "Thank you so much for not sucking," because I'm gonna go do that again.
Why don't we stop for a second? Maybe give you guys a chance to talk about like what you do. Like, what do you do over there at Fox News Media? Maybe you can talk more about the company. What your day to day work is for the company. Maybe you can explain to us who Little Pup and Raw Dog are. You can give us that whole background.
So here, to give you a general idea. Topical comes in. Show sends us a topic and says, today or tomorrow, we're promoting this in the show. It gets assigned to a producer, which would be me. I will write it, and I will coordinate with Jeremy. There's another PA. There's two PAs, but my preference is to work with Jeremy, obviously. This is the script. Just got approved. I'm sending it out to voiceover. I'm going to need shots to line up with this. And sometimes Jeremy at this point could look at my script and pick the shot. If there's something specific, I'll say, I need this shot for this spot, this shot for that spot. He'll grab music. And then we take it into an edit room together and we both oversee it. Now, sometimes I get pulled away to do other things that aren't topicals, and Jeremy will just take the keys and finish the spot. But that's a topical promotion that gets completed and sent to air. And within a short window, probably, what do we think we have, 3-4 hours to get them done and online?
Yeah. And that's pretty much daily stuff.
Now, you want Jeremy to talk a little more about what he does on his perspective?
Yeah, for sure. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So like Bart said, a topic comes in, he'll write it. And at this point, like when I first started, it was a lot more of collaborating. Like, okay, like what do you want to do for this? What do you want to do for that? But over the years, I've gotten more of just kind of pulling stuff and being like, this is what I think works, kind of grabbing pictures, sound bites, things like that, and just putting these topicals together. And now I'm writing my own and producing my own. I don't have the title yet of an associate producer, which would be the next step, but I pretty much am doing the job of that. I'm writing my own topicals, producing them by myself when I can. So that's been nice to get that.
He's well on his way.
Yeah, like trusting me to do that on my own from Bart and the other guys that work there, the managers and things.
It's great. That's great. Just before we started recording for the listeners, we were talking about Real American Freestyle, which streams on Fox Nation. I know you guys also go to some of those events and you do some promotion work there. What do you guys do at those events?
Well, now we talked about how I was with Weather. As the structure changed and Weather is self-contained and does their own promotion now, I got moved to Nation. Nation is my main responsibility. We all kind of fall back to news and business. But as far as specialty stuff goes, Nation is that's my baby. And more specifically, because I had a sports background, they gave me this wrestling project. And we go to a couple shoots. We have to come up with new creative every time to do a brand spot and collect footage that can be used for evergreen spots. And our most recent one was in Tampa this past weekend. I wrote a new image promo that we're going to be putting together over the next couple of weeks. That's going to probably roll out for the May Real American Freestyle matches. So we go on the shoot, we hire a crew at a house, we make shot lists, we come up with all kinds of ideas of multiple things we can get while we're there for the 2 days we're there. And we have to put them together, and it's just a bunch of hustling. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Jeremy wants to speak more to it. Both of us are running around like chickens with our heads cut off. I think we went into Saturday and I was so anxious because I feel like we got nothing we can use except Jeremy. We dressed up as a wrestler.
Here we go.
And shot him on the mat with a silhouette so you couldn't see his face, which we will use in promo. But that's all we had in the can. We didn't have anything. And about 7:00 Saturday, everything just started flowing. And we were prepared for it because we were ready to roll.
Yeah. And I'll add to that by saying, like we had stuff from Friday of me, but we can't go home with just that. It's like we didn't send you all the way down there to film something you could have done here. So going into Saturday, to Bart's point, it was a little nerve-wracking before the event because it's do or die time. Either you're going to get that footage or not. And a lot of it is relying on the wrestlers to play ball. If they're going to read the lines and they're going to cooperate. Not only that, they don't give you the wrestlers and say, here you go. Like you have to find them wherever they might be, in the locker room, in the bathroom, walking by you in the hall. Hey, man, let me grab you for a sec. We have some lines you want you to read. Most of them are willing to do it because they want the exposure. But some of them are not so easy. You kind of got to, convince them that this is good for you. You want to do this. It's not going to be hard. It's only going to be 5 minutes of your time. So it's a lot of that.
Good connection for you, too. Jeremy's got a history from the Monmouth wrestling team. So if any of these wrestlers give you any trouble, Jeremy, just take them down.
Oh yeah,
That's
take
it.
down some world champions.
Those guys are very impressive. Last year, the fraternity adopted an updated slogan. It's Find Your Purpose. Perhaps you guys can talk about what that slogan means to you and how you found your purpose in life. Either one of you can go first.
To me, find your purpose is just kind of like what gets you out of the bed in the morning. You know, what puts that spark under your ass to like get you going. Um, Doing cool shit like RAF is something for me that does that. It's like, yeah, the day-to-day topicals, they get boring, but like knowing that every now and then I get to do cool stuff like that for work is really cool. And my time at Monmouth, for the undergrads listening, it was kind of just like being a part of a fraternity, being a part of something bigger than yourself, going to parties, making connections, hanging out with friends. That was kind of my purpose then. And now my purpose is just like Bart said, just keeping my nose down to the grindstone and just trying to make something.
Great. Bart?
There are desk jobs in this world, and you have to do what you have to do to get by. And Jeremy and I are lucky enough to work in an industry where, I mean, it is stressful at times, most of the time. But there are moments where at least I sit back, and maybe Jeremy can agree, where we go, I can't believe we're getting paid for this.
Yeah.
I think there are things we are passionate about within this job, whether it's wrestling or even beyond that, it kind of feeds our egos a little bit and gives us a little adrenaline. And I wake up every day and I don't say to myself, I can't believe I have to go to this. I mean, I go, this stupid bus I got to drive into the city, but I don't go, this terrible job. I go, something interesting is going to happen today. And that's, and I'm proud that I can say to my kids that I do something that is meaningful to me and that they don't see their dad just head down, slouched over, drinking terrible coffee and complaining about everybody. So yes, I have found my purpose in many ways in life, and the job is one of them. Who I am started at Sigma Pi in Monmouth University, and I grew and grew, and I kept learning, and I put my head down, and I'm happy. But I'm never satisfied. I want more. I want to keep growing and go even further. What's next? How can I push this even more? So I guess finding your purpose should never have an end. To me,
I agree with that.
You should always be looking for more purpose.
Yeah. I think you should always be looking. You could always be bettering yourself somehow.
It's a great perspective. Great perspective you guys have. Look, before we go, I wonder if you guys have any final, maybe parting words for the listeners.
I guess I would say for the undergrads listening, work hard, do what you have to do, graduate, but have fun because it's going to be over before you know it, and you will be thrown out into the real world. As scary as it may seem, if you make those connections now, it won't be as hard, and you will find a job a lot easier. I guess my final parting words is have fun, but also work hard. Work hard, play hard, and you'll be all right.
Excellent.
That's by the way, that's the mantra of Roll Dog and Little Pup. Just so you know, work hard, play hard.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'll add to that: never stop learning. I said it before. Your education does not end at college. You don't just when you graduate, you're not done, because there are different angles to this, different aspects to the career you choose. And you're going to want to know from every perspective. And the more you learn, the better you'll be. And also take care of people under you. I had mentors at all of my previous jobs. And I like to maybe hope I'm instilling a little bit of that on Jeremy.
Absolutely.
Great. If our listeners want to connect with you guys on social media or LinkedIn, how can they find you?
On LinkedIn, I'm Bart A. Tripoli 3, or Bart A. Tripoli the 3rd.
Yeah, my LinkedIn, it's just Jeremy, Jeremy, Lenart, Lenart.
Cool. Thank you guys
Just
for
my
being
name.
guests on the Owl Talk podcast. You guys are the best.
You can stay up to date on the latest in the world of Sigma Pi fraternity by following us across social media. We are at Sigma Pi, all one word, on Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and Facebook. On YouTube, we are at Sigma Pi fraternity, also one word. Remember, you can always get the latest information on Sigma Pi fraternity at sigmapi.org. Thank you to everyone who listened to this episode, and we look forward to you joining us for the next Owl Talk podcast.